My heels clicked against the polished marble floor of my apartment building's lobby, the sound bouncing through the quiet space. It was a Tuesday night, the kind of night when most people were already at home resting. Not me. I had just walked away from another 14-hour workday, another major campaign wrapped up, another proud client shaking my hand with excitement. On paper, it was a win. In reality, it just felt heavy. I checked my phone again, even though I knew it was pointless. The screen lit up, but it stayed the same. No messages, no calls, nothing waiting for me. I told myself it didn't matter, but that little sting in my chest betrayed me. The elevator doors slid open with a soft ding, and I stepped inside. My reflection stared back at me from the mirrored walls. Olivia Carter, 32 years old. Today, senior public relations executive. My green eyes looked dull under the bright elevator lights, my dark hair slightly frizzy from the long day. I looked like someone wearing exhaustion like it was expensive perfume. Someone who had spent her birthday just like any other day, working harder than anyone else. The number on my phone screen still didn't change. 0 calls, 0 messages. I whispered to myself, "You're a grown woman. You don't need birthdays to matter anymore. Birthdays are for kids, right?" That's what I kept saying. But when I unlocked my apartment door and stepped inside, the truth hit harder. On my coffee table sat the little cake I'd bought for myself that morning. A single candle stood in the middle, like a soldier waiting for orders. I stared at it for a long moment. It looked almost pathetic sitting there, like it was mocking me. "Happy birthday to me," I whispered into the silence. I dropped my leatherwork bag by the sofa and slipped off my heels, sinking into the cushions. The apartment, usually my safe space, felt too big tonight, too empty. I had decorated it carefully over the years, picking out pieces that made it warm and welcoming. But tonight, it felt hollow. The clock on the wall ticked closer to midnight, each second pushing me closer to the end of my birthday. My phone was still silent. No family calls, no texts, not even a late-night happy birthday. I grabbed my laptop, telling myself I'd distract my mind with work. Maybe I'd review that proposal one last time, but my fingers had other plans. Without really meaning to, I clicked open Facebook. The very first post on my feed made me freeze. It was my brother Ethan Carter. There he was, holding up a champagne glass, grinning wide. Around him were dozens of smiling faces, everyone I recognized. Behind him hung a giant banner. "Congratulations on your promotion." My father stood next to him, pride glowing in his eyes, his arm around Ethan's shoulders. My mother was on the other side, smiling up at him like she'd just won the lottery. I blinked at the screen, my throat tightening. The timestamp on the post said it all. 4 hours ago, on my birthday. I scrolled down, each picture cutting deeper than the last. Aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't seen in years, all of them gathered to celebrate Ethan. Post after post filled with comments. "So proud of our superstar." My father had written, "The Carter family legacy continues." My mother added proudly. My hands shook as I closed the laptop. It wasn't that they forgot my birthday. It was that they had chosen not to care. They had chosen Ethan's celebration over mine again. And just like that, the old memories came rushing back. When I was 11, I sat alone at a restaurant table with a cake in front of me, waiting for my family to come back. They'd promised to return from Ethan's debate competition in time. They didn't. The candle melted down into my slice, leaving wax in the frosting. When I was 17, they sent me to Grandma's house on my birthday weekend so they could tour Yale with Ethan. Dad's words still echoed in my ears. "It's his future, Olivia. You'll understand my college graduation." What should have been my big night turned into Ethan's spotlight because he announced his engagement during dinner. The room went from clapping for me to discussing wedding venues. My hard work graduating with top honors was forgotten in seconds. Even last month, When I led a campaign at work that increased client revenue by 40%, my dad brushed it off. "It's just advertising," he said. "Not real impact like." Ethan's work in finance. I picked up my phone again, scrolling through contacts. All those names, all those people who had never once picked up the phone to celebrate me. My eyes blurred. That's when the email notification popped up on my screen. I opened it. A bonus. $82,000. My reward for the Horizon campaign I barely had. Time to process before my phone rang, making me jump. My mother's name appeared on the screen. For a moment, my heart leaped with hope. Maybe she remembered. Maybe she finally called for me. "Hello," I said too quickly, hating the way eagerness leaked into my voice. "Olivia, darling." My mother's cheerful voice filled the line. "I'm so glad I caught you. Listen, we're planning something special for Ethan and Megan's anniversary next month. I was hoping you could help with the catering and decorations. You're so good at that sort of thing." I froze. The clock struck midnight. My birthday was officially over. "Mum," I said quietly, my voice trembling. "Today was my birthday." There was a pause on the other end. "Oh, was it?" She sounded genuinely surprised. "Oh, honey, with Ethan's promotion party, it must have slipped our minds." Slipped their minds. Again, I stared at the email still open on my laptop. $82,000. More money than I'd ever held at once. Something shifted inside me, sharp and permanent, like tectonic plates moving beneath the surface. "Don't worry about it," I told her, my voice suddenly calm, steady in a way that surprised even me. "I understand what's important to this family," and for the first time, I really did. 4 days later at work, I sat in front of my computer, staring at something that made my stomach drop. A family group chat. I wasn't supposed to see it, but my mum had accidentally added me. Message after message scrolled down the screen. My father's words: "Olivia should contribute at least $20,000 for Ethan's anniversary gift." My mother's reply came next. She just got that big bonus. Time for her to support the family for once. And there it was. My name spelled wrong. 1 L instead of 2. My own mother couldn't even spell my name right. I leaned back in my office chair, staring at the Chicago skyline outside the tall glass windows. My chest felt heavy, like someone had dropped a brick inside it. My family didn't forget me. They never really saw me in the first place. Just then, my co-worker and closest friend, Jasmine, poked her head into my office. Her curly hair bounced as she stepped in. "Your brother's online too," she said, then paused when she saw my face. "Liv, what's wrong?" I turned my laptop toward her, showing her the messages. Her eyes narrowed. "This is the 3rd time Ethan's used your contacts for his work. And now your parents think you should give him 20 grand. Are you kidding me? They think it's time I finally support the family," I said bitterly. "What exactly have they ever done for you?" Jasmine asked bluntly, perching. On the edge of my desk, the question hung in the air. I didn't answer, because deep down I already knew. Nothing. I sat there in my office. The city spread wide behind me, my laptop still open on that group chat. My parents, my brother, my family using me like an ATM machine. Like I was nothing more than a convenient source of money. The anger burned hot, but beneath it was something colder, heavier. A lifetime of being invisible, ignored, second place. Always second to Ethan. Always the background character in my own family story. "Liv," Jasmine said, her voice breaking through my spiral. She leaned closer, her voice soft but sharp in its truth. "I don't know why you even bother with them anymore. You've built everything you have on your own. You don't owe them anything." Her words should have felt like comfort, but instead, they lit something different inside me. A strange mix of pain and clarity. She was right. I didn't owe them. I never did. That night, after work, I sat on my sofa with a glass of wine, staring at my bank app. The bonus sat there in my account, a neat line of numbers that felt unreal. $82,000. My hard work, my recognition, mine doubt, and yet I could already hear my father's voice in my head. It's not really your money. It's family money. You're supposed to help. The thought made me laugh bitterly. Family, what a word. They used it like a leash, pulling me back whenever I tried to break free. I thought about the times I'd loaned Ethan money in college, how he never once paid me back. I thought about the vacations I wasn't invited to, the birthdays they forgot, the celebrations I only found out about through Facebook posts. And then I thought about something I hadn't allowed myself to consider before. What if I stopped trying? What if I stopped chasing their approval like a starving dog chasing scraps? For the first time in my life, I let myself imagine a different kind of future. A future where I wasn't tied to them. A future where I put myself first. The idea scared me and thrilled me. The very next weekend, the family group chat lit up again. Dad, Olivia, did you send the transfer yet? Ethan and Megan already put down a deposit for the venue. They're counting on you. Mom, yes dear, don't delay. You're the successful one. Help your brother. Family comes first. I stared at the messages for a long moment, then typed back. 2 simple words, not happening. Almost instantly, my phone rang. My father. I let it ring twice before answering. Olivia, what do you mean not happening? His voice was sharp, the way it always got when he didn't get his way. I mean, I'm not paying for Ethan's anniversary party, I said evenly. Not now, not ever. There was silence on the other end, followed by a disbelieving laugh. Don't be ridiculous. You're making more money than you need. It's your duty to give back to the family. My chest tightened. Give back? When have any of you ever given to me? His tone turned cold. Don't start with your self-pity, Olivia. We've supported you your whole life. No, I said firmly. You've supported Ethan. You've celebrated Ethan. You've invested. In Ethan, I've done everything on my own. Every single thing I have is because I worked for it, not because of you. Don't you dare talk to me like that, he snapped. We are your family. That comes with responsibilities. I took a deep breath, steadying my voice. You're right. Family does come with responsibilities. But respect goes both ways, and you've never respected me, not once. Then, before he could reply, I ended the call. I sat there, my heart pounding, my hands shaking slightly around. The phone. For a moment, guilt pricked at me, the old familiar guilt they'd trained into me since childhood. But then it faded, replaced with something far stronger. Relief. The following days were a storm. My phone buzzed with call after call, text after text. My mother sent long messages about how disappointed she was in me. My father called me selfish. Ethan even chimed in once, saying, "It's just money. Live. Don't be so dramatic." I ignored them all. Instead, I threw myself into work. And for once, it wasn't just about running from my family. It was about proving to myself that I didn't need them. One evening, Jasmine and I stayed late at the office, eating takeout and going over a new client pitch. She leaned back in her chair, chopsticks in hand, and studied me. "You seem different," she said. "Different how?" I asked. "Stronger, like you finally stopped waiting for them to change." I smiled faintly. Maybe I did. She tilted her head. "So what now?" The question lingered long after she left. What now? What did I want my life to look like if I wasn't tied down by the endless cycle of trying to please people who would never be pleased? That weekend, I found myself walking into a travel agency. I don't know what drew me there. Maybe it was the need for escape. Maybe it was curiosity. The woman at the counter looked up with a smile. "Where would you like to go?" I hesitated. Then the answer came out before I could second guess it. "Somewhere I've never been. Somewhere beautiful." She pulled out a few brochures. Italy, Greece, Bali. My eyes lingered on Bali. Beaches, sunsets, mountains. A place as far away from my family drama as I could possibly get. 2 hours later, I walked out with tickets booked for a 2-week trip. When I told Jasmine, she nearly squealed. Finally, you're actually doing something for yourself. I'm proud of you, I laughed. Feels strange though, like I'm breaking some unspoken rule. Good, she said. Break all of them. The night before my flight, I got one. Last message from my mother. Olivia, if you go on this selfish trip instead of helping your brother, don't bother coming home for the holidays. I stared at the text for a long time. Then I deleted it. The plane ride to Bali felt like shedding an old skin. For the first time in years, maybe ever, I wasn't Olivia the dutiful daughter, Olivia the responsible sister. I was just me. That, when the plane landed, the warm air hit me like a wave. I stepped out, and something inside me loosened. The world was bigger than my family, bigger than their expectations, their neglect, their constant demands. Over the next 2 weeks, I swam in turquoise waters, hiked green cliffs, and sat on beaches watching sunsets that looked like fire melting into the ocean. I laughed with strangers, ate food I couldn't pronounce, and let myself breathe. For once, I wasn't invisible. Because here, it didn't matter who my brother was, or what my parents thought of me. Here, I was just Olivia. On my last night in Bali, I sat at a beachside cafe with a notebook in front of me. I wrote down one sentence. I will never let them dim me again. When I flew back to Chicago, I carried that promise like a shield. I didn't know what the future would look like yet, but I knew one thing with absolute certainty. My life was finally mine. The first Monday back in Chicago felt strangely different. I walked into the Horizon Brands office with the same polished suit, the same neat bun, the same laptop bag slung over my shoulder. But inside, something had shifted. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I wasn't dragging myself through endless hours to fill the hole my family had carved in me. I was building for me. Even Jasmine noticed. You look like you've got a secret, she teased as we settled into the conference room for a client pitch. Maybe I do, I said with a small smile. The truth was, Bali had given me more than rest. It had given me perspective. I saw how small my parents' world really was, how small they wanted to keep me. But the world itself, huge, open, waiting, and I was done letting them cage me. Of course, they didn't see it that way. By Thursday, my phone started buzzing again. This time, it was my brother Ethan. Against my better judgment, I answered. Liv, he said, his voice casual, too casual. Listen, I know things got a little heated about the anniversary party, but, come on, don't hold a grudge. I almost laughed. A grudge. As if decades of neglect and favoritism could be boiled down to a grudge. I'm not holding a grudge, I said evenly. I'm setting boundaries, he scoffed. Boundaries? What does that even mean? Your family. Boundaries don't exist in family. I shook my head, though he couldn't see it. That's exactly the problem, Ethan. You've all used family as an excuse to take and take and take. Well, not anymore. His tone hardened. You're seriously going to let money ruin this? Mum and Dad are furious. Megan thinks you're jealous. Honestly, Liv, I don't get you. You have everything, and yet you're still bitter. Jealous. The word stung, not because it was true, but because it revealed so much about how they saw me. They thought my success was a consolation prize. That deep down, I'd always wanted to be Ethan, the golden child. But the truth, I never wanted to be him. I just wanted to be seen. I'm not jealous, I said softly. I'm free. And before he could reply, I hung up. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my balcony, looking out over the city lights. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Calm. But life has a funny way of testing you the moment you think you've found peace. The test came 2 weeks later in the form of an email from HR. Congratulations. You've been nominated for regional director consideration. It was the promotion, the one I'd been grinding toward for years. The one that came with a corner office, a 6-figure raise, and the kind of authority I used to dream about when I was a junior associate pulling all-nighters. I should have been ecstatic. And part of me was, but another part of me froze, because I knew what would happen the moment my family found out. And sure enough, they did. 3 days later, my mother called. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice, syrupy, sweet, and sharp as glass, spilled into the recording. Olivia, darling, I heard the news. Regional director. How wonderful. You must be so proud. Listen, your father and I were talking. This could be a real opportunity for you to finally give back. Ethan and Megan are looking at houses, and a little help with the down payment would mean the world. Call me back. I didn't. But then came Dad. Then Ethan. Then even Megan, texting me with fake cheer. Congrats, Liv. We knew you'd make it. By the way, could you co-sign the mortgage with us? Just a formality. I stared at the message, my blood boiling. Just a formality. As if my credit, my name, my future was just a casual signature for their benefit. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. But instead, I opened a blank document on my laptop and started writing. Not an angry text. Not a scathing email. A letter to them, to myself, to anyone who needed to hear it. It began with one line. I am not your safety net. I am not your wallet. I am not invisible. Asterisk, the words poured out, raw and unfiltered. Years of silence breaking open. Like a dam. I wrote about the birthdays they forgot, the dinners I wasn't invited to, the way they celebrated Ethan like he was a god while treating me like a background character. I wrote about the pain of being the responsible one, the successful one, only because they never cared enough to expect anything from me, except to clean up Ethan's messes. And then I wrote about Bali, about sunsets and oceans and laughter with strangers who saw me more clearly than my own family ever had. When I finished, I sat back, tears burning my eyes. The letter wasn't for them, it was for me. Proof that my story mattered, even if they never acknowledged it. The next morning, I closed the document, saved it, and walked into HR for my final interview for the promotion. I nailed it, not because I was trying to prove anything to my family, but because for the first time I was doing it entirely for me. A week later, the official offer letter landed in my inbox. Regional Director, $220,000 a year. A team of 40 reporting to me. I accepted without hesitation. When I told Jasmine, she hugged me so hard I almost lost my breath. You did it. Oh my God, Liv, you did it. I smiled. Yeah, I did. That night, though, as I celebrated with champagne in my apartment, the messages started again. Mom. So proud of you, sweetheart. Now about that down payment. Dad, it's your responsibility to help your brother. Don't embarrass us by refusing again. Ethan, come on, Liv. Don't make this harder than it has to be. For a moment, the old guilt crept in, the familiar pull of obligation. But then I remembered the waves crashing against the Bali shore, the sentence I'd written in my notebook. I will never let them dim me again. I picked up my phone, typed one message into the group chat, and hit send. Congratulations on the new house hunt. I won't be involved financially. Stop asking. The silence that followed was louder than any reply. I sat back, exhaled, and for the first time in my life, I felt untouchable. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. Families like mine don't give up. They grip easily, and as much as I hated to admit it, a storm was coming. The question was I ready to face it? It didn't take long for the silence to break. 2 days after I sent that blunt message, in the family group chat. My phone rang again. This time, it wasn't Mum or Ethan. It was Dad. I almost didn't answer, but something in me wanted to hear what he had to say. Maybe, foolishly, I hoped it would be different. "Olivia," he said. The moment I picked up, his tone was calm, but it carried that familiar weight, the kind that made me feel like a scolded child, even at 31. "We need to talk." I stayed quiet, waiting. "This attitude of yours, this independence you're clinging to, it's not right. Family supports family. Ethan has always been there for you." I cut him off before I could stop myself. "Always been there for me, Dad. When? Name one time." He hesitated. Just for a second, but it was enough. "I don't want to argue," he said finally, his voice sharpening. "Your brother needs your help. It's not about fairness, it's about duty. We raised you better than this." I felt my jaw tighten. Raised me better? They barely raised me at all. "I'm not doing it," I said, my voice steady. "I've worked too hard for what I have. I won't risk my future because Ethan can't manage his." The line went quiet, and for a moment I thought he'd hung up. Then he spoke, low and cold. "If you walk away from this family, Olivia, don't expect us to welcome you back, ever." And then the call ended. I stood there in my kitchen, the phone still in my hand, my heart pounding. They'd threatened me before, but this felt final. A line drawn in the sand. For the rest of the week, I threw myself into work. Back-to-back meetings, late nights, drafting strategies, endless calls with clients. But no matter how many hours, I buried myself in, the words kept echoing in my head. "Don't expect us to welcome you back up by Friday." Jasmine had had enough. She cornered me in my office, closing the door behind her. "Okay, Spill," she said, arms crossed. "You've been grinding harder than usual, and that's saying something." "What's going on?" I sighed, leaning back in my chair. "It's my family. They want me to co-sign Ethan's mortgage." I said no. Now they're acting like I've disowned them. Her eyebrows shot up. "Wait, they expected you to do that? Just like that?" I nodded. "They always expect me to fix everything. And when I don't, I'm the villain." Jasmine shook her head, muttering under her breath. "Unbelievable." Then, louder, "Liv, you've got to see this for what it is. They're not asking for help. They're demanding it. And when you don't give in, they punish you. That's not family. That's manipulation." Her words hit me like a slap. Manipulation. I'd never let myself frame it that way. But deep down, I knew she was right. "Maybe," I said quietly, "but they're still my family." "Blood doesn't make people family," she said firmly. "Love does. Respect does. Do they give you either?" I opened my mouth to argue, but nothing came out. Because the truth was, she was right again. That weekend, the storm I'd been bracing for finally hit. It started with an email from Megan Long, dramatic, dripping with fake sympathy. "Olivia, I don't know what's gotten into you. You've always been the strong one, the successful one. But lately, you've been so cold. Ethan and I are trying to start a family, and it breaks my heart that you don't want to be part of it. Don't you want to be an aunt? Don't you want to see your niece or nephew grow up in a home that you helped provide?" I almost laughed at the guilt trip buried in her words. "Don't you want to be an aunt?" As if my entire worth boiled down to financing their domestic bliss. Then came the social media posts. Megan, smiling next to Ethan at an open house, captioned, "So excited for this next chapter. Grateful for the people who truly support us." The comments were full of congratulations, and more than a few subtle digs clearly aimed at me. I didn't respond. I refused to play their game. But then came the call from my mother. She didn't yell this time. She didn't threaten. Instead, she cried. "Olivia, please," she said between sobs. "You're tearing this family apart. Ethan's trying so hard, and you're just watching him struggle." What kind of daughter are you? What kind of sister? Her words pierced me deeper than anger ever could, because that's what they always knew. Guilt worked better than rage. I almost caved. I almost said yes, just to make the tears stop. But then I remembered Bali. I remembered standing barefoot in the sand, laughing with people who didn't know me but saw me anyway. And I remembered the letter I'd written to myself. I am not your safety net. I am not your wallet. I am not invisible. So I took a deep breath and said, I'm the kind of daughter who's finally taking care of herself. And I hung up. The fallout was immediate. My parents stopped calling. Ethan blocked me on social media. Megan sent one last text, dripping with venom. Don't bother showing up when the baby comes. We don't need your negativity around our child. I sat on my couch that night, staring at the city skyline, a glass of wine untouched on the table. For the first time in my life, I was truly alone. But strangely, I wasn't afraid. The silence that used to feel like abandonment now felt like freedom. Still, the loneliness crept in. On Sunday, I found myself scrolling through my phone, tempted to call them, to apologize, just to make the emptiness stop. But then Jasmine's words came back. Blood doesn't make people family. Love does. So instead, I texted Jasmine, wine night. Within an hour, she was at my door, a bottle in hand. We sat on my couch, talking and laughing until midnight. And somewhere between the second and third glass, I realized something. I wasn't losing a family. I was building one. Different, chosen, real. But even as I felt that warmth, I knew the story wasn't over. Because people like my parents, like Ethan and Megan, didn't let go easily. And sure enough, they didn't. The next curveball came not from them, but from work. A new client, one of the biggest Horizon had ever landed. Guess who was leading? The partnership on their end, Ethan. When I saw his name in the meeting notes, my stomach dropped. Client partner, Ethan Carter, my brother, my problem, my blood. I sat in the conference room the next morning, hands clenched under the table, trying to breathe as the door swung open. And there he was, Ethan in a crisp suit, Megan trailing just behind him, all smiles and smugness. Well, he said as he slid into the chair across from me, looks like we'll be working together. His tone was sugar-sweet, but his eyes burned. The room filled quickly with colleagues and executives, chatter bouncing around. But for me, the noise dulled. It was just Ethan and me, locked in the kind of silent battle we'd been waging our whole lives. The meeting itself was brutal. Ethan dominated the conversation, interrupting me, talking over me, making little digs disguised as jokes. Olivia's great at details, he said at one point. She always did like control. A few people laughed politely, not realizing, or maybe realizing too well, that it wasn't really a joke. I held my ground, kept my voice calm, professional, unshaken. Every time he tried to corner me, I redirected. Every time he tried to undermine me, I countered with facts. By the end, even my boss gave me a subtle nod of approval. But the second the meeting ended, Ethan was on me. Stay after, he said under his breath as people filed out. We need to talk. I almost refused. Almost walked out and left him sitting there. But something in his tone, sharp, desperate, made me stay. When the room was empty, he leaned across the table, dropping the mask. You think you're better than me now, don't you? His voice was low, venomous. Big career, fancy apartment, Bali vacations. Meanwhile, I'm fighting for a house, for a family. And you, he jabbed a finger at me. You couldn't lift a finger to help. I sat back, meeting his glare with one of my own. Ethan, you've had every chance I've had. More, actually. You just wasted them. Don't blame me for the mess you made. His jaw tightened. You'll regret this. You think Mom and Dad will ever forgive you? You think you'll still have a family when this is done? I felt the familiar sting, the ache in my chest. But then, like a shield, Jasmine's words rose up in my mind. Blood doesn't make people family. Love does. I'd rather than have no family than one that only sees me as a bank account, I said quietly. He stared at me, shocked by the calm in my voice. Then he laughed a short, bitter sound. Fine. Don't come crawling back when you realize money doesn't keep you warm at night. He stormed out, Megan trailing after him with a glance that was half triumph, half pity. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. His words echoed, stirring that old fear. What if he was right? What if success and independence meant nothing without family? What if I really did end up alone? But then I remembered the nights on the beach in Bali, the strangers who felt more like family than the people who shared my blood. I remembered Jasmine, sitting beside me on my couch, laughing until we cried. I remembered the letter I'd written to myself. I am not invisible. And slowly the fear faded. The weeks that followed were tense. Working with Ethan was like navigating a minefield. He tried everything: subtle sabotage, gossip, even going to my boss to question my leadership. But each time I stayed steady, professional, focused. I refused to let him drag me down. Then came the client presentation, the big one, the deal that could make or break the partnership. Ethan came in overconfident, waving around half-baked ideas and flashy promises. I stuck to strategy, to research, to results. When the client asked hard questions, Ethan stumbled. I didn't. By the end, the decision was clear. They chose my plan, my team, my leadership. As the room erupted in handshakes and congratulations, I caught Ethan's face, pale, furious, defeated. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel small. I felt free. That night, I walked home through the city, the air crisp, the lights glowing. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Another message from Mum, no doubt, or maybe another angry rant from Megan. But I didn't check it. I didn't need to, because here's what I realized. Family isn't something you owe. It isn't something you buy. And it isn't something you're trapped in forever. Family is chosen, built, nurtured. And for the first time in my life, I was free to choose mine. When I reached my apartment, Jasmine was waiting on the steps, 2 cups of takeout coffee in her hands. Victory coffee, she grinned. Heard the news, I laughed, the sound light and easy. You're ridiculous, she shrugged. Maybe, but I'm also right here, always. And as I took the cup from her, warmth flooding my hands, I knew the truth. I hadn't lost my family. I'd finally found it.